access to all of our courses, and Anytime Access allows you to pause and rewind and learn at your own pace. We have over 500 courses to choose from, and we're constantly creating more. So stay tuned for all of our upcoming audio classes that we have as well. So during all of the live courses, you can join the chat rooms as well, and this is a great way to participate and interact and be part of the Creative Live experience. So this is how you ask the instructor questions in real time from the comfort of your own home and interact with other students as well. So we have just an incredible Creative Live community, and maybe if we don't get all of your questions answered by Andrew, you guys can ask each other questions because we just have a wealth of knowledge in there. So with that, very excited to have Mr. Andrew Wade here. He's a producer, an engineer, a songwriter, and you are the brains behind the Wade Studio in Orlando, Florida. So I'm very excited to have you back, and I think you're just an awesome guy. So welcome, Andrew Wade, back to Creative Live.
Thank you.
Good to have you. All right, take it away.
All right. Well, I am really excited. We have a lot of great stuff to go over. Let's talk about me just for a second, because I'm sure some of you guys don't know who I am. These are some of the bands that I've done. A Day to Remember is probably the one that you might be the most familiar with, but I've done The Ghost Inside, Motionless in White, The Word Alive. I work with Varsity Merge, tons of other bands. Sometimes I forget bands that I've done until I go back and listen. But so yeah, I've been doing this for years. Been doing it for like 10 years or more. So I've gotten a lot of knowledge. I actually haven't had professional, like technical training. It's all just been me figuring stuff out on my own and kind of talking to other people that have been in the industry and finding out what their favorite things are and what works for them, and then I try to apply it to myself and choose my favorite thing. So what I'm going to be talking about is like stuff that really works for me, and specifically works for whenever you're working with strangers, you're working with, you know, bands that are coming in, you don't know what you're getting into. Like whenever you're just doing your own vocals, for instance, you get familiar with your own voice, so you kind of know what to expect, but you don't always know. So we're going to get into that a little bit later, but that's mainly what this class is aimed towards. I'll go over what we're going for in detail. The Wade Studio is my studio. TheWadeStudio.com is the website for my studio. So, all right, we have, I'm just gonna play some clips for you guys. I do a lot when it comes to vocals that I unfortunately think some people might not realize that I do. I always put a lot of work into the vocal tracks specifically. So I'm really excited to show some songs that you might already be familiar with, but this is just the vocals parts that I, really liked, and I thought the production was really cool, and we're going to talk about how to achieve these kind of results. So I'll just play the clips now. So a few of these, I get to spend a lot of time with A Day to Remember. They usually are in the studio for a while, and I'm good friends with Jeremy, the singer, so it's really me and him one-on-one a lot, and we get to try new things and spend a lot of time doing stuff, so you're gonna hear me talk about them a lot. And most people are familiar with them. I'm assuming you probably know who they are. Anyway, so this track, this is an acoustic track called I'm Already Gone. I'm gonna play it in the music, and then without the music, just so you can hear everything that's going on. And here's the acapella track. Life in yesterday. I'm already gone. I'm
down that I've been through, that I know, to find my reason to come back home.
So yeah, sometimes that one might be a little easier to hear what's going on because it's just acoustic, but I just really like to.
That was
I love that.
awesome.
Thank you.
That
Thank
is
you.
beautiful.
Can
Can you say the band one more time? Or the
A Day to Remember.
A Day to Remember.
A Day to Remember, yeah.
Thank you.
So what happens in the studio is usually, for instance, what happened with this track specifically is Jeremy just sang the main melody with the acoustic, and I literally put everything else in there. Like, I arranged all the vocals, I wrote all the backups and the ahs and all that stuff, and then we'd go through track by track, and just until all the layers are in there. So I love doing this stuff, so I'm glad to share this stuff with you. All right, here's another one. This is a little more upbeat. It's called The Document Speaks for Itself, also A Day to Remember. Here we go.
Why can't you see what 3 little words have done to me? I never knew I was alone. You turned your back, you broke this whole world. Took me so long to find the answers and your reasons why. I just wanted things to be alright, or at least for just tonight.
So here's just vocals.
Why can't you see what 3 little words have done to me? I never knew I was alone. You turned your back, you broke this whole world. Took me so long to find the answers and your reasons why. I just wanted things to be alright, or at least for just tonight.
So there's like some little backup, like repeating vocals in there that you might not have heard in the actual track. And this one has a really common technique that I use, which I'll do the main vocal and then do an octave under it to kind of like really make the regular vocal sound a lot fuller. And then on top of that, we'll do harmonies and then do the repeating vocals and then do harmonies on those, maybe an octave on that too. That one I don't think had ahs in it, but.
So how many vocal tracks are you actually talking about when you're doing, so you have an octave, do you do multiple takes of the main vocal in the octave?
Yeah, yeah.
Compose?
So some of these, one of the other ones I'll get to has, I actually looked because I was curious, one of them has about 30 vocal tracks in the part, and that's the one coming up here.
That's awesome.
This is a different band, The Ghost Inside. You might know who they are. Yeah. They're another heavy band. This was a cool part vocally. This has a group singing part in it, which is something that we'll get to today. We'll have some volunteers. Just focus.
All my life, I've been waiting for something that never came. It never came, but I'm still saying all my life, I've been searching for something to break these chains, to break these chains. But I'll keep swinging.
So that was just a fun one there. Now this next one is the one that has about 30 vocal tracks. I don't know if it sounds like it, but it does. This is one of my favorites. It's called Right Back at It Again. It's by A Day to Remember. And here we go.
So here I am, I'm right back at it again, just like I've always said. If you're too cool for school, I ain't here to make no friends, and I'll say, hey, I'm right back at it again, just like I've always so here I am. I'm right back at it again. Just like I've always said, if you're too cool for school, I ain't here to make no friends. And I'll say, hey, I'm right back at it again. Just like I've always said, if you're too cool for school, I ain't here to make no friends or impact.
So anyway, that one's really cool. Something else I didn't put in the acapella, which is technically acapella, the little beatboxing part, still, that probably adds another like 15 tracks to the vocals. So yeah, vocals are really important, and you can have a lot of fun with them. Okay, so those are things I've done in the past that you're familiar with. This is another thing. This is a song that we're actually going to be singing with Jessica, who's going to be coming in later. And we're going to have a live tracking of this. But this is an example of a before and after of edited, or not edited, and then edited vocals. It's me singing, so it's kind of embarrassing because it's not the greatest. So you'll get to hear what you can take, or what you can make something out of something else that might not sound all that great. So here, this is part of a track called Take It Slow.
Let the small things slide, cause they just don't matter. Let them build up and the whole thing shatters. Roll it off, roll it off. It's enough to break it up. Let the small things slide, cause they just don't matter. Let them build up and the whole thing shatters. Roll it off, roll it off. It's enough to break it up. Let the small things slide, cause they just don't matter. Let them build up and the whole thing shatters. Roll it off, roll it off. It's enough to break it up.
And then here's the edited track.
Let the small things slide, cause they just don't matter. Let them build up and the whole thing shatters. Roll it off, roll it off. It's enough to break it up. Let the small things slide, cause they just don't matter. Let them build up and the whole thing shatters. Roll it off, roll it off. It's enough to break it up. Let the small things slide, cause they just don't matter. Let them build up and the whole thing shatters. Roll it off, roll it off. It's enough to break it up.
Effects on it and
I love
stuff.
it. You sound so good.
Thanks. And the second one.
That's awesome.
But
Sorry, I don't mean to make you blush.
anyway, that track has lots of layers, and I'm actually going to go into that session and show all the. I think that one might have like 40 tracks. I don't know, but so I'm sure what you noticed going from the first one to the second one is there's more clarity and tightness. And obviously the pitch is better. Now another thing that I'm also going to be talking about is how to arrange something like that successfully, where you have a bunch of layers and it doesn't sound jumbled. You can still kind of hear everything. And we'll be going over the mixing and aspects of that.
Yeah, just one quick question. How much of the stuff we're going to be learning is like Pro Tools specific or just universal?
The most specific stuff is not Pro Tools, it's actually Melodyne and Vocaline. Those are going to be the biggest plugins. I'm actually going to be talking about specific plugins, and some of it is Pro Tools plugins, but it's still like regular compressors. There's nothing like really crazy, like, you know, you can only find this if you're in Pro Tools.
Cool.
It's all the same like concepts and workflow and order of doing things and stuff like that. Okay,
awesome.
So
thanks.
Let's get back to who is this class for? Anyone that makes music with vocals, obviously. Producers and songwriters, vocalists themselves. Even if you're not recording somebody, you will probably be recorded, so you kind of need to know what to do when you're in the studio, what to expect. And you might even realize whether or not you had a good studio experience. Like you might go to someone who made you feel comfortable and you didn't realize how good you had it, and then you go to another studio and it's like just the most nerve-wracking thing, and things are just disorganized. So this will be good for vocalists. Mixers, remixers, even DJs. We're going to be getting some really crazy effects that you guys may or may not know about. I don't know. Okay, this is what we're going to cover in the 2 days. We're going to start with day one, setup, prep, and tracking, gear and environment. We're going to actually talk about how to get your environment ready, whether it's acoustically or the way it looks, the way it feels, the gear, stuff that's like high end, or if you're using, you don't have that much money, maybe you're just using an interface, how to make the most out of your equipment. Vocal arrangements, like the complex arrangement that I just played for you, the track Take It Slow, and tricks on how to do it easily. Actually working with a vocalist, which, how many of you guys do record bands, like people that come in? Yeah. So you know how some vocalists can be difficult, some vocalists can be really easy, but I'll be talking about how to work with both of them. Yeah, sometimes it can be tricky, and there are a lot of cool techniques that we'll talk about. Editing, effects and mixing. The editing is huge. If you're not editing right, you're just probably ruining the vocals. You got to keep the feel, and I'll show how to do all that stuff. Pitch correction, shortcuts, tips and tricks, and we'll be talking about effects. That's just not there. So we'll be talking about the like vocoders and harmonizers and all kinds of stuff like that. So let me ask you guys, why is a great vocal so important?
As far as what the audience is listening to in music, your vocal performance is the #1 thing that people will relate to. It's got to be the top of the mix. It's the one thing that immediately will identify your band too, because everybody can use the same guitar tone or have that amazing snare reverb, so they sound like Def Leppard. But as soon as the singer sings, that's the #1 identity of a group. Yeah, that's great. That's exactly right. It brings me to these next points. Like you said, this can be the difference between also if a band is okay or if they're great. And there are songs where the vocal is almost the only thing that's there. If you guys are familiar with Imogen Heap, they have like a track where it's just a vocal, and that song got pretty popular. There's the song out right now, Royals. It's like a super simple beat and just like a bass line or something, and then it's mainly vocals with backups and harmonies and all kinds of cool stuff. And that's what makes the song. I mean, you guys heard these a cappella tracks, they almost sound like they're songs in themselves. And then the stuff that you do around it kind of just adds the meat to it, or puts it in a certain genre. So here's another really good point that I was thinking about. A lot of the top songs right now have the same chord progression. There's actually a Wikipedia page that I found that talks about all the songs that use the same chord progression. These are just a few here, but they use the same chord. It might be like in a different order, but they all use the same chord progression. Might be a different tempo or key or whatever. But you can listen to all these songs back to back, and it kind of, you don't think, hey, this is the same exact song, and well, why not? And it's the vocal that's setting them apart. You might listen to them instrumentally if you're not familiar with them. You might listen to them instrumentally and think that they sound similar, but as soon as that vocal is on there, suddenly you know what song it is. You know what band it is, and that's what makes the song. So a lot of, I'd say a lot of like, especially musicians and bands, like they really think about their, like a guitarist or a drummer or whatever, they think about their own part and you could write an entire song that's really awesome. Then suddenly you put vocals on it, and it's either terrible or it is amazing. So that's just something that I really want to drive home with this class is vocals can be your song. I mean, how many instrumentals go platinum or #1? Like, there are some, but they're pretty few and far between. It's usually all about the vocals. I'm sorry, guitarists and bassists and drummers out there, keyboardists, you are important, but if you have somebody with a terrible vocal singing over what you did, nobody cares. Nobody is going to listen to your band. So that's why we're doing this class, because I love vocals. I found out a bunch of cool tricks with them, and I can't wait to share this stuff.
Andrew we have a question from our chat room. Andrew from Edmonton's wondering, will you be showing examples where the like layering of vocals is more minimal? So when you're working with just one vocal?
Yeah, we're definitely going to do that. Awesome. In segment 3, after lunch, we're going to be actually having someone tracking a vocal in a song, and it's just going to be a single vocal. I'm going to be talking about when to use single vocals, when to use doubles and triples, and when to use a complex arrangement. For instance, the example that I did, I tried to make it, when I wrote it, I made it complex on purpose, just so we could get through these examples. But sometimes that's not the best idea, like in a verse. Sometimes you want to start out a song simple. So,
cool.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into that, and I think that's a really important thing to be covering anyway. Okay. Yeah, here we are. The vocals literally song. Apply these techniques that I'm going to be sharing with you today, and your songs will be better sounding, and hopefully, if I explain it well enough, your songs will actually be better. Okay, before you start a session, because we're going to be having we're going to have a few sessions here today. We have Jessica doing the singing. We have Tommy from Sleeping Giants. Yeah, that's right. We're going to have some screaming and some group vocals. You guys are going to be doing screaming of your own and singing. Yep. Susan's going to do.
I'm not going to be screaming. I just had a question about screaming. I'm not going to be screaming, but Pity wanted to know, or P. Diddy, sorry, P. Diddy is here, and they wanted to know.
In the house.
Will harsh screaming vocals be mentioned in this course? And I think the answer to that question is definitely yes.
Yeah, we're going to be going.
And you had a question? Did you have a question? Okay. All right.
Okay, cool. How are we on time?
We're doing good.
Cool,
we're doing really good.
Cool. All right, I just have a lot to cover, and I just want to make sure we get to it all. All right, so before you start a session, if you work with bands, if you're not working with yourself, you have no idea what you're getting into. Sometimes you're actually being brought to a different studio to produce, and sometimes you'll get demos from bands, but a lot of people have access to pitch correction, so sometimes you don't know if a vocal is actually good, a vocalist. Sometimes you hear the demo and you think they're great, but you have no idea. So, and today's a great example. I've never worked with either of these vocalists, so anything can happen. And I've never worked with you guys doing group vocals. So, I mean, this is going to be a great example. This is how it goes. Like, I have no idea what's going to happen. They don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to make the best of it. Okay, so. All right, this stuff is exciting to me. I hope it's exciting to you guys too. But before you actually do tracking, you should have a good environment. And let's talk about acoustically. So let's say, for instance, this room. I don't know how well you can hear that, but this room isn't the most ideal for tracking vocals. It's pretty big. They do have some padding on the walls, but if you're going to do vocals, especially if you're going to be doing like maybe something really loud like screaming, it's going to reverberate, and you might not want that. You can't really take that out, especially if you're compressing it a lot. So your room needs to be right. And I'm going to go over a few scenarios with that. So
We do have a setup that we're going to go over. That's a little DIY thing for you DIY guys out there. I know that some of you guys are watching. So the actual range that the human voice hits, this chart shows basically the tones, the notes that you can sing, and this is male and female vocals put together. So it kind of cuts off at 100 hertz, and it goes up to about 4 kilohertz. So those are kind of going to be the frequencies that you need to make sure are controlled when you're doing vocals, because those are the frequencies that are going to be the most. You know, you're not doing drums. There's not going to be like super low end. You're not doing bass. So if you do have those kind of frequencies ringing out, you're not going to have a problem, because you're not going to be hitting 20 hertz with your voice. I mean, but if you can, that would be awesome. So hit me up about that. Anyway, just kidding. So I wrote this little chart down here for certain, for different size rooms. I'm going to have to go back. Let's talk about standing waves. I'm going to go back to that chart in a second. A standing wave is your worst enemy. It is probably the most common problem you're going to encounter when you're tracking vocals in a house or just a regular room with parallel walls. If you're in a studio environment, you'll notice, if you didn't notice already, a lot of the walls and the ceilings won't be parallel to each other. And that's to eliminate standing waves. So a standing wave is the easiest way that I can explain it. Let's say you have two mirrors and they're facing each other, and you're standing between the mirrors and you look, and it almost looks like you're looking down an eternal hallway. But take one of those mirrors and angle it just a little bit, that hallway it just disappears. So instead of that happening with light where it's bouncing between the walls, it's happening with sound. So as soon as wherever the source of sound is coming from, as soon as you angle one of the walls, that standing wave is bouncing all over the place. So it's being diffused is the proper term. So sometimes you can't angle your walls. So there are other ways to get rid of them. Absorption is one of them. But anyway, let's talk about this just for a second. So I put down some of the most common sizes for rooms and stuff. I did have some other sizes on here. They're gone now. So if you have walls that are 3 feet apart, let's take a closet, for example. That's the only room that would be that small I can think of. Say you're tracking vocals in there. If you don't treat it properly, it's going to be, you're going to have a boost at 370 hertz, which is really going to make your vocals boxy. And then whatever you have, let's say a super short distance between the mic and let's say a wall. I have 10 inches down here at the bottom. So it's at about a little over 1 kilohertz is going to be your problem frequency. And that's like right in the middle of everything. That can make your vocals sound nasally. It can make it sound really mid-rangey in a bad way. Sometimes you can have a pop or a vocal shield in front of the microphone, and if you are using the wrong one, that can actually be amplifying frequencies in that range. So you have to know what kind of vocal shield to use, where to place it, and we're going to be going over all that stuff. So all this stuff matters. So I have 8 feet here because that's normal ceiling height. So putting treatment on your ceiling is really important too in a vocal room. So these are the, if you're understanding this correctly, these are the problem frequencies between these certain walls, certain distances between the walls. Now, I did have the actual solution for each of these, and it's absorption. I'm going to try to remember this. You guys might want to write this down because this is actually not in the slides. To treat these certain rooms, let's take 10 inches for instance. A certain material that you want to use that's really cheap
and very effective if you don't have a lot of money to use for acoustics, is rock wool is one of them. There's also mineral wool, and rigid fiberglass is another material. And they sell them in, it's usually about 2 feet by 4 feet sheets. And the most expensive ones that I think I bought are about 4 inches thick, and they're about $9-10 a panel. And I mean, if you've ever bought acoustic stuff, that it will save a lot of money. So you can frame those, or put fabric over them, or do whatever you want. But so for 10 inches, all you need, and I did the research just so you guys know that I'm not just saying random numbers. For 10 inches, you need 1 inch of any of these materials to do the right amount of absorption for the frequency, the problem frequency, to eliminate that. So for 10 inches, if you're 10 inches away from a wall, you need 1 inch of material that will absorb the problem frequency, which is around 1 kilohertz.
And that's because the length of that wave, right? Is that right?
Exactly.
The length of that wave
Yeah.
is about 1 inch. So to absorb it, bounce
no. The length of the properties of that material absorb that frequency. It's called an absorption coefficient.
Okay.
It will specifically absorb that frequency when the material is 1 inch thick.
Okay.
And whenever you're talking about absorption coefficients, 1 means completely absorbed. So if you're looking it up on your own, I think I may have put a resource here. Maybe not. Bob Gold's, I think, .com is the website where you can find a lot of this information about absorption coefficients and the actual materials to buy. But whenever the absorption coefficient is 1, you'll see the frequency range, and then it will say a number, and 1 means completely absorbed at that frequency, if that makes sense. So, so let's go down this list really quick. So for the 10 inches, you need 1 inch of absorption, if that's going to be your problem frequency. At 3 feet, it is 2 inches. At 5 feet, it's 3. And then it jumps up. At 8 feet, it was around 4 or 5 inches. And then 10 feet was like 5 or 6 inches. So those lower frequencies need the thicker absorption. So now let's say you're going above. Let's say you're going to a 30-foot room. The amount of absorption that you would need would be, if you're going to use that material, it'd be super deep. So we would actually go to a different type of absorption, which is called a resonator. What is it called? It's like a resonant. What is it? Resonant membrane or something like that. It's a different thing that you guys don't have to worry about because we're talking about vocals. And that would be if you're trying to get rid of those really low frequencies. That'll probably be a different class. That would just be for drums or bass or something like that. So you don't have to worry about that stuff. So that's very valuable information when you're building a vocal booth, specifically. Okay, so sometimes you're in a large room and the reverb is pretty cool, like it sounds good and you want to keep it on the track. Sometimes you don't. So you would have to treat a really big room a lot to get rid of it. So usually you'll want to get in a smaller to medium-sized room, but it's technically the most difficult to treat for vocals if you want to eliminate everything, because that size room is really bouncing around your vocal frequency the most out of any room. Like a larger room like this, the frequencies that are bouncing around are a lot lower than your actual voice. Yes?
We've built a vocal booth essentially in a closet. Probably about a 3-foot room, but just lined the entire surface on all the walls and the ceiling actually with either the egg crate foam or at least just some foam treatment like on the door. So the room itself is really dead.
Yeah.
Would you suggest any additional treatment like the rock wool?
I would say if anything, Your biggest problem in a room that size would be, or to actually keep in mind, is the ceiling needs a lot more treatment than the walls, because there's a larger distance between the ceiling and those small walls. So in your room, I've never been in it, but I'm gonna guess that there's some kind of boxy low end that resonates a little bit in there just because of the ceiling and the floor.
Actually, I think we fixed the ceiling because what we ended up doing, the way the room was constructed, was there's almost like a mattress up there, and it's not a parallel surface.
Yeah.
We made sure it was slightly angled.
Yeah.
And it's a soft absorbent surface with some foam on it.
That should take care of that.
Yeah, because we really haven't had any problems with it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know.
So, and maybe like it's good to have like a plush carpet or something in there to absorb on the floor, because that's another surface you have to think about. Sound is going in every direction when you're singing, so it's going straight down. What is it hitting? You have to, be aware of that too.
Oh, since you just mentioned it, in my mixed studio at home, I have a concrete floor, and I've just thrown down a rug on it, but I am noticing there's a slight ring that I'm getting. So should I throw down carpet padding and recarpet the room to get rid of that ring?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the room. There are a lot of different things it could be, but I'm not a huge fan of having a hard floor in a room that you want completely dead, because there's always going to be sound hitting the floor first and then getting absorbed. So there's going to be some kind of, something's going to be resonating, at least a little bit because of that. So
yeah, the rest of the room is totally treated,
totally
and
dead,
the walls are angled and everything. And
but there's still
I just hear this
something
one
happening.
ping, and I think it's definitely the floor.
It could easily be the floor. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I know people who have spent a lot of money just on bringing people in just to tell them how to treat the room. And it's if you have this information, it can be super valuable to yourself, because you're not spending thousands of dollars just on the actual materials and the person that's coming in. So I just saved you guys thousands of bucks. All right, you're welcome. Anyway, all right, so another thing, super important. I'm gonna try to, let's see, let me just see. Soundproofing is really important too, because some of the vocals can be really sensitive, really quiet, and we're actually going to be doing some really quiet vocals on the first song that we're going to be tracking. So you want your room to be soundproof, because a lot of houses and studios, they have air conditioners, and sometimes that just goes right through the walls, or you have noisy neighbors, or noisy, just the band is making noise. They will never be quiet. But it happens. So you want it to be soundproof. And soundproofing is completely different than absorption and diffusion. People interchange these words all the time. They are absolutely not the same. Absorption stops the sound as soon as it hits it. Diffusion bounces the sound in all different directions. And soundproofing just completely stops anything from the outside getting in, or vice versa. And there are a few different methods. Okay, so the most soundproof thing that you can have is an airtight room in a room. Now, that's obviously outrageous. I don't think any of us can build an airtight room inside a room, but we're aiming for that. That's the main concept that we're going for, and that will make everything I talk about make more sense, because these things aren't just random. It's almost like we are going for something that we can't really get to in theory. There are some like anechoic chambers, and they really do that stuff. Some of the quietest places on Earth, they'll have like, the decibels will be like -20 or something outrageous, which doesn't even make sense. So
It's very loud, and I've been in one of those ones.
Yeah.
And it gets you disoriented too.
Yeah.
Sorry, no worries.
Yeah, he was just saying that he had been in one of those, and they can be very disorienting. Even just being in a room that's padded pretty well is kind of weird. It sounds like all the sound is being sucked out, and that's good for recording vocals. Because if you want to add stuff, you can add stuff. If you want to add reverb or delay or whatever. But if you have a room that does have reverb in it, there's no real good way to get rid of it. You need to get it right at the source.
So it's always, you'd say it's always best to just, a totally isolated room is always best.
To me, that's my absolute favorite.
Because then you can add whatever you want.
You can even, if you did want the sound of a real room, there's impulse responses are really accurate these days of rooms. Or for instance, if you wanted to go above and beyond, you could take the unprocessed vocal that you recorded and play it in a speaker in the room that you, if you like the sound of the reverb, throw a mic in the room, or dual mics, stereo mics in the room, and then capture the sound of that room. And if you want to get crazy with it. So you could have your completely pitch corrected vocal, then play it out in the room, and the reverb will sound perfect, and you'll get your favorite sound if that's what you like.
Cool question. So like if you can't build your own soundproof room and you're really poor and you live in an apartment, like, and you're just kind of like at your laptop recording vocals for like a demo, like something less professional, what would your solution be? Put a blanket over my, or a pillow
This
thing?
stuff, and we'll get into that.
Okay, cool.
So sometimes you can't make it completely soundproof, but sound absorption does help. It will literally make anything that's in the room with you, like your computer humming or a fan or anything like that, it'll make it quieter because the sound isn't bouncing around everywhere. It's just like, here goes the sound, whoop, it's just absorbed. It just gets sucked into the wall. So, and some of the sounds that do come from the outside will also get absorbed, sort of a little bit, but that's not quite soundproofing. So we will get over to this in a second, but this would be your solution. All right, so you guys understand an airtight room inside a room, floating. Okay, I didn't add that, but now you have it. Here's the biggest problems. Money, just like you said. Money, walls, ceilings, doors, windows, air ventilation, like the air ducts, basically everything in the room. Let's see. I just flip this. Okay, so all of these matter if you're going to be, and I like to talk to the really professional, the people that are trying to get to the next level, and then some people, DIY guys. I like to try to address all the problems that I can. So we're going to go through soundproofing methods. I'm going to kind of go through this quickly. But the most important thing are the walls. If you can't do anything else, you could soundproof a wall, and there's a few different methods. The first one that's the cheapest and it's very effective is double drywall. So you will have your regular room and you would build inside it. Before you put the extra layer of drywall, you'll put the generic name is an acoustic vinyl barrier. It absorbs any impacts coming from the outside wall or coming from the inside wall. So if you have those lower frequencies that are actually getting absorbed by the drywall, because the drywall does vibrate a little bit like for the super low frequencies, and those are the frequencies that are going to come through your wall the easiest. So you have that vinyl barrier, and this is almost like your room inside the room. So you have your normal drywall, you have the acoustic vinyl barrier, and then you have other drywall that you put on top of that. An example, one brand is Quiet Barrier. That's pretty popular. There's a bunch of different barriers. It's almost like having a giant mouse pad between your walls, basically, and it makes a huge difference because you're not having those things touch. As soon as if you just put drywall on top of drywall, those surfaces are touching and they're just vibrating each other. So if you have that little pad, this one's vibrating, but it's getting absorbed by this material that's between the walls. So if you can't do anything else, you do that. It'd be great to put it on both sides of the wall. That's a lot more efficient than just doing the inside of the vocal booth if you do it on the inside and on the outside. Another one is offset studs. This is like if you're basically building the wall from nothing and you have a lot of money to spend on doing this stuff. But hey, maybe there's somebody out there watching this that is wondering what is the best. This one is better but more expensive. So you have it's basically like building a wall on top of a wall. So you have your regular studded wall, I had a little picture. I don't know where that went, but so you have your regular studs. I wonder if I can draw this really quick. I can. Okay, so here's your wall. I don't know what camera this is on, but here's your wall, and this is the inside. These are your studs. Bam, 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 bam. Regular distances apart. And then you would build a wall on top of this. Make sure that the base of the wall is not touching the other wall, maybe like a centimeter or an inch gap between them. And then you would build studs here instead, so they're offset from the other wall. So you don't have anything in direct contact. So if this was over this guy, you would be getting vibrations going through there. So, and then what you do is you have kind of a pattern like this. So let's say this is you're looking down at the top of the wall. You have your studs offset like this, and then you would have the insulation going in here, behind that one, in front of that one, behind that one, like that. So it's weaving in and out between those. So that's you can just use like regular pink stuff or, whatever to put in between there. But that's offset studs. It's more expensive, but it works very well. So if you're at that level and you're looking for super, soundproofing, then you do that. You could also do that in addition to the double drywall.
You mentioned weaving the insulation between the walls. Would that just be like a normal, like 4-inch thick or so wall insulation?
Yeah, you could use pink stuff. Just make sure, the more insulation, the better.
Yeah, I found out when doing some construction that insulation, I always thought if you packed a whole bunch of it in there, it worked better, but it's actually the opposite.
Yeah, you don't want it.
You want it as expanded as possible.
Yes, you don't want it really tight, because the tighter, like I was saying, when things are pressed against each other, that's whenever they're like getting really, they're absorbing.
Yeah, so even the fiberglass within the insulation's transferring sound.
Yeah, so if you're packing it like super tight, then the same thing
that's actually a negative use of it.
Yeah, you want it to be full, but you don't want it to be like completely tight.
So in the offset stud design, you actually have a really thick wall, but you would have a lot of open space as the insulation weaves between the studs.
There would be some open space in there, yeah.
And that pockets of air as it wraps around the stud actually creates more of a sound barrier inside the wall layer.
Yeah,
right?
air gaps are like your best friend when it comes to soundproofing.
That's great. Okay.
The sound has further to travel, so it's going probably a little bit through the drywall, and then it's going to go through the insulation, get absorbed. Then it's going to hit the other drywall. By that time, it's going to be tired, and it's not going to want to keep going.
Yeah.
It's going to give up. It's like, I'm done. So anyway, yeah, that's basically soundproofing walls, which is, to me, the most important.
Great.
Okay, so other things, I'm just going to touch on these really quick. How are we doing on time, really?
We're doing really well. Let's see. We have. Well, you just keep going. We have plenty of time.
Okay.
Do your thing.
All right. Where are we now? Okay. So the ceiling and the walls you're going to think of in the same way. If you're going to do your walls, you have to do your ceiling, really, because sound will go right through the ceiling just like anything else. People forget about that and wonder why it's not soundproof. It's probably because of the ceiling. So you're going to build it down. You're not going to go in the attic and build over that. I mean, I guess you could, but you kind of want a room inside a room. Think of it like that. So you are building inside the other room. You're going to put glue the acoustic vinyl barrier up there, and then you're also going to put the drywall over that. Obviously, leave holes for electrical. I just put that because I don't know. If you don't do that, your lights won't work and stuff. But you got to do that.
question. When you do soundproof the ceiling, I generally see that people hang like sheets of acoustic panel.
That will be for sound diffusion and absorption. That's not soundproof.
Okay.
But you can, it would be like a soundproof ceiling, like whatever method you choose, whether it's this double drywall or you can also do the offset studs thing for the ceiling. And then you would also want the angled panel hanging down from that. Unless you're talking about a drop ceiling.
No, I guess the main question is, what would be the difference from hanging a panel versus actually like screwing it into the wall, as far as absorption goes?
Oh, okay. So, well.
So I generally see it like above like where you mix. I've
Yeah.
seen panels above that area, but
Yeah, when it's hanging, it's not. Again, like I was saying, it's not transferring any vibrations to the ceiling or getting any from the ceiling. So what you want to do is you want the sound to go through the material. Maybe it'll bounce on the ceiling and come back through the material, so it's like getting super absorbed. And whenever it's hung, that will also stop things coming from other directions too, because you have, if it's completely against the ceiling and you have something that's bouncing from back here, like from behind you, say your monitors are angled that way and it's bouncing back this way, if it's completely flush against the ceiling, it will kind of miss the panel and it won't actually get absorbed. So when it's hanging down, it's going to be getting absorbed through the back. It's just the most effective for absorption because of the actual angle. So it's good for it to actually, whenever it's going straight up from your monitoring environment and when it's coming from the back or from the front or whatever. So it's almost as though you could have a panel going straight down and one going like that, and it would kind of do the same thing. But if you just have it hanging and angled, it takes care of both, and it actually diffuses the sound because you no longer have a parallel surface.
so that would be the ideal setup.
Yeah.
Drop down and angled.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. If you have a drop down and it's parallel, I mean, you should probably just angle it because then you're doing absorption and diffusion, which is like exactly what you want. That's why you'll see some of these, like some of these panels are angled also. They're not just flat absorbing. The angle of these is diffusing the lower frequencies, and then the regular foam material is actually absorbing the higher frequencies and stuff. So, but if it was thicker, it would also absorb the low frequencies, but it's not that thick, so it's angled. So it all depends on. That's why I talk about the thickness of stuff. These are thin, so they have the angle to diffuse the lower frequencies. So it's all hand-in-hand stuff, as long as you understand the basic concepts. So back to soundproofing, whenever you do put up your walls, you want everything airtight, like I was talking about. You want a room inside a room that's airtight. So you want to fill every gap. You want the actual drywall that you're building inside the other layer, you want those to be completely flush and tight against each other. Not to the outside wall, but to each other on the inside wall. So you would want that as tight as possible, and then you also want to fill in all those gaps so no the high frequencies will find their way right through those tiny gaps. It's crazy how much of a difference that actually makes whenever you fill those in. Okay, so the next one is doors. I'm kind of doing these in order of importance. The door is where a lot of the sound is going to come through. Some people are in houses, they don't have solid doors, they have hollow doors, but if all you can do is one solid door, make sure that there's a weather seal. Or if you just have a regular door that's not solid core, you want a weather seal. You want it airtight. And that's the cheapest, obviously.
Some people may not know what a weather seal is. Do you want to just explain
weather seal, yeah, you'll see it on
If you
maybe
just tell them to look at a door, right?
Yeah,
Like
well,
most
usually an
doors
outside
out.
door. It'll be around the bottom and the sides. Usually it'll keep water from coming in and cold air, like it's cold outside and stuff. But you can find those at, you know, anywhere, Home Depot, Lowe's, any store like that, and just pick those up. They're really, really cheap. But that is actually going to help keep it airtight and seal it and keep some sound from coming in. A lot of like mid-range frequencies will come through the doors that are hollow core. So the solid core is going to block out a lot of frequencies. So there's a little diagram here where we have the double layer door. This is, you know, if you're at that level, this is what you want to do. You would have 2 doors because, I mean, you're building double walls, you're building a room inside a room again. So you have your regular door and then the other door, and they just, I don't know if there's a diagram. It's pretty simple. You got 2 doors, but they're overlaying each other. They're not like doors like this. They're doors like this. And both of those need to be sealed. Okay, windows also. If you're going to build a window, if you're at that level, to actually build a window, you need at least 2 layers of glass. I've seen some with 3 or more, but 2 works really well. I've built one myself. And what you want to do is have one angled from the other for several reasons. Whenever they're exactly parallel, they're gonna, anything that vibrates this, the air gap inside there, it's usually gonna be absolutely airtight inside there. So anything that hits this is gonna vibrate that one, because you got, you know, there's nowhere for the air to go in or out of that. So when you angle it, any sound that hits that, it doesn't have a chance to exactly push that. It's getting diffused inside there because you have the angled surfaces. Also, you can't put sound absorption material on top of your window, otherwise you won't be able to see through it. So when you angle that, you now have an angled surface, so acoustically inside your room that you're monitoring in or you're tracking in, you're not having to worry about a parallel surface. You have an angled surface, so that sound is being naturally diffused off the window. So in this specific diagram, you see one that's perfectly straight and one that's angled. I would say in the most perfect scenario, you would have them both angled, or you know, this way or that way. So this is like a side cutout view of the window, if that makes sense. You're not like, I guess you could be looking down on it, but this is like a side view of the window. Yeah, and also that has to be airtight, so you want to put like a weather seal around that, or, you know, grooves to the wood, whatever wood you put that in. I'm not going to explain how to build a window. You could just look that up. But if you do have regular windows, let's not talk about actual windows between like the control room and the tracking room. Whatever windows you have on your house, if you can switch those out for, they just make windows that are more soundproof, those actually make a huge difference. So if that's all you can do, that will help a lot. I personally have those in the studio room that I have, and they work really well. There's typical soundproof windows. Okay, now this is really hardcore. Floating floors. It's basically, here we are again, building a room inside a room. You'll put down the studs on the floor, and then some kind of plywood, and then flooring on top of that. I've never actually had a studio with floating floors. But I've been in a few, and it makes anything that travels through the floor. If you have anything in direct contact to the floor, like a kick pedal or something like that, that'll get absorbed right into the concrete floor, and it'll just go straight into the other room. And you'll just hear like a clicking, clear as day, right through the wall, no matter how much soundproofing you have. So, you have a question?
Yeah. I've also heard of people like filling, like if they build a second floor in there, filling that with sand or some super dense material just to absorb. Yeah.
I actually don't know a lot about sand. I've heard of people doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest, I just really don't know about that.
But you could build it just hollow And
Yeah, hollow is probably you would want to put some sound absorption in there, obviously, because it would resonate just while you're walking on it and stuff. So you don't want that to happen. You would have that. And again, you would also put the acoustic vinyl barrier down also to absorb, walking and stuff like that. So yeah, to me, I mean, I've been doing this for so long. I've maybe had one situation where I wish I had it. So, I mean, I don't think it might not be worth it. But don't let me stop you if you're going to do it. Okay, so now we have this airtight room. No air is getting in. Oh, because it's airtight. So what do? That's why this rabbit hole goes deep. So this is a design for an acoustically insulated air duct. It's like soundproof. So a lot of your sound will come in from the other room straight through your vents. And what do you do about this? This is what you do. It's like you make a maze for the air to go through. And the inside of this little maze is basically acoustic, like rigid fiberglass or something like that. You may have to build this yourself. I actually haven't gone this far into it yet, but I do know a lot about this stuff. And I'm pretty sure they do make some that are pre-built, but this is really hardcore. If you're at this level, here's some info for you. This is how you get the air in the room without sound coming through the air duct. Now, you also need an outflow of the room if it's going to be completely soundproof and airtight. So this is like, what I'm talking about right now is the ultimate, you're building the ultimate vocal booth. This is how you have to do it. If your room's airtight, no air will flow in and your vocals will burn up because they'll get too hot or they won't be able to breathe. If you did a really good job, you got to make sure you finish the job. So it's basically the same concept where you have, it would be at the bottom of the wall there, where the air would just be able to flow out of the room, kind of in a maze shape. And so you can breathe and get air in there. That's the biggest problem for airtight soundproof rooms. And that's how you avoid that. So, do we have any questions before I go on?
We do have questions. Why don't we go ahead and finish up, and then we'll just do a Q&A at the end, if that sounds okay? Unless you want to take a couple questions right now.
No, I'm almost
You
done.
guys have any questions in the studio audience? Everybody's doing good?
Almost done with this.
All right, well, why don't we finish up, and then we'll do a Q&A section,
Okay.
and then we'll get started.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool.
Okay. What if you have a limited budget? Aha! Yeah, we just talked about the craziest thing you could possibly do with a vocal booth. But if you do all that stuff, you'll have the perfect, most awesome vocal booth. So if you're at that level, awesome. Do that. So what I want to do is, live on the air, we're going to build a pop filter really quick. Now, some people, this is really, really simple. If I had all my materials here, some of them have been stolen, but that's okay. Wire coat hanger and pantyhose. This comes in really handy. So actually, I'll just show you the basic thing. I have one finished here for you. But you would just, I know some of you guys, when I first started out in my bedroom, I had no money. I was in high school. I didn't know what to do. And I know some of you people are watching right now. And you just, it's basically kind of straighten it out. Oops. Just kind of wind that around there. Straighten it out, kind of make a circle here. You know, make it as round as you can. That's the basic shape there. And this is really easy. I use this for years with great results.
just take your pantyhose. I'm sure you have pantyhose laying around, everyone. Or you go to the store and you look like a weirdo and you buy pantyhose. So what we have here is the basic pop filter. And what you'd want to do is just put a little twist tie or zip tie around that. I perfected one here earlier. So it's a nice round circle. But what's awesome about this is it's 2 layers. So you get a lot of, it blocks a lot of the plosions, what are they called? P's and T's and B's and all that stuff. And it's pretty transparent material. Now, you might not like the way this sounds, and you also you might be picky and you might be poor. Beggars can't be choosers, but sometimes you can. You can use thin t-shirt material. I just used some gaff tape. You could sew this on if you want to get fancy with it. And this basically just will go over the microphone. So that's just one layer of t-shirt material. But you want that to be thin, so it's not changing the sound of it. So let's also, because we're talking to the DIY guys right now, let's go over here and talk about this vocal shield. Now I really like this design because it's really simple. Most people have pillows. Maybe you don't have mic stands, maybe you can just fashion something out of wood that will hold these up. But it's basically just 3 pillows on mic stands with clips on the top. And you don't want any kind of fabric that's really tight. And if you, so it can be acoustically transparent. And if you want it to look better, maybe you could throw something over it, some kind of cool looking material or whatever. But that's basically free, for anybody that doesn't have anything. So let's say you are at home on your laptop in your room and you can't build a vocal booth. What's going to happen is these are so thick, was that 8 inches or something at the thickest point? A lot of the frequencies that we talked about earlier that are probably going to be problem frequencies in the size room that you're most likely recording in are going to be absorbed by these pillows. So when you sing into the microphone, then you would have your cool little pop filter there. They make different colors, okay, right? We got black here. They make black so you can look more professional. You can even cut this weird little extra skin off. This is going to be absorbing. They do make other vocal shields, and you might think about building it yourself out of wood or something like that, but you got to keep a few things in mind. Depends on how far you want to take this. So if you do have wood behind this, you have to keep in mind that whatever goes through there is going to hit the wood and kind of bounce back a little bit. If you have like the lower frequencies, or if you have thin pillows, or if your material isn't thick enough, they make some professional vocal shields, and we'll show that in a little bit, where the back is completely solid and it's actually causing a problem for the vocal sound to bounce back into the microphone and boost weird frequencies and give you problems when you're mixing the vocal. So what this does, the sound goes through it, and then by the time maybe you have sound absorption on your wall, I don't know, it bounces back and is by that time definitely absorbed. So that's the basic concept of this vocal shield. So as long as you're right up to it, singing, your sound is basically going this way into the pillows, getting absorbed, and you want to make sure that you have some kind of plush carpet or something, which is also comfortable while you're doing vocals, to absorb sound going down. If you can do the ceiling, do the ceiling. But if not, this should do a pretty good job for practically free. So there you go. Susan, I think that's all I have for
I think that's great. And I just want to remind everybody, everybody at home, the best way to ask Andrew questions so that you can interact with him in real time from wherever you are is Underneath the screen that you're watching, you'll see a click to chat button. Jump in the chat rooms, and there's a question called the Q's tab, the questions tab, and just put your question in there for Andrew so that we can ask any questions that you have.
Andrew, we actually have a question from TaylorMade. It says, Andrew, I want to build a studio in my basement. I imagine a lot of people at home have extra space in their basement. That's a great spot to do it, I think. My kitchen is just above the area where I want to put the studio. What do you recommend to soundproof the ceiling and minimize sound that's actually coming down from people walking around, things like that?
Yeah, good question. Whenever you have like a 2-story studio, now that's pretty advanced. That's a pretty advanced question there. But if you don't have like a lot of basements kind of, I'm from Florida, so we don't have basements, but to my knowledge, a lot of basements don't have the highest ceilings. Is that common? Yeah, so you do want to build your ceiling down, but you also want to be able to walk around. So let's say you have a really cool basement with a ceiling that's like as high as this. I don't know, what is this, 12, 15 feet? I don't know. So you would definitely want to do the most advanced one, which is you would probably put up the acoustic barrier first, then put the studs on top of that, and then the drywall on top of that, so it's not plus sound absorption material inside there, like the rock wool or the mineral wool or something like that, inside there. And I mean, that's really a really advanced construction. And depending on how your kitchen is actually built, like it may or may not make that big of a difference. If it's poorly built to begin with, you're going to have a lot of problems. But for the most part, that would take care of the noises of walking around, because those are like low frequencies that would be absorbed by thick mineral wool. And then on top of that, you would also want to do sound absorption underneath what you just built. So you got your kitchen floor, you got your studs, and then you have your sound absorption. And that
It almost sounds like it may be easier for him to build like a little ISO booth instead of trying to insulate the whole basement.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be ideal, right? But
if he's doing, if it's like this whole basement is my tracking room,
right?
That's what you would have to do, and that's a huge undertaking. But yeah, you could just build a smaller vocal room and keep in mind the sizes and the frequencies that we talked about, and build accordingly. And you want that to be airtight too. But then you have the air problem, the airflow problem. So it depends on how much money you have, how much time you have, and you know what you want to invest into it.
Yeah, I actually had a similar situation at my last house. The ceilings in a lot of the basements, at least here in Seattle, are typically around 7 feet.
Oh,
so you've already got it built down. And I also had pipes running across it because it was just an unfinished basement. The studs directly from the kitchen floor, which was like linoleum on top of wood, so you could hear the refrigerator running and everything. I think I went to Home Depot and spent maybe $70, and I got the 9-inch thick attic insulation, and I was able to puff it out and fill up the space in between the studs, and that right there alone killed a tremendous amount of the sound that was being transferred. And since I couldn't hang drywall or anything because of the pipes and everything, all I did was I went online and got some 1-inch thick egg crate foam, and I think I got 3 or 4 4x8 panels for under $100 shipped. You just got to look around online, and there's deals like that. And I just stapled that. So I ended up with a ceiling that didn't really come down any further than the 7-foot barrier. It was
because you already had the pipes.
Yeah,
there
it was just right there, and it was nice because I was able to remove it all when I moved out, so the landlord wasn't stuck with anything. But it ended up killing almost all the sound that was leaking through the floor, because my girlfriend would be upstairs banging away in the kitchen and doing dishes and dancing basically, and I'm trying to mix. So that's an inexpensive thing. I know it treated the whole ceiling for under $200.
Yeah, that's an awesome tip, and it could be case specific, just like you said. I mean, I don't know if that guy has pipes in it, running through that or whatever, but It sounds awesome.
Yeah, I think the insulation helped a lot, and puffing it up as much as possible made a big difference.
Very cool.
Cool. All right.
idea.
If you guys have any other final questions before we go to break, we have a question here from Andrew from Edmonton who wanted to know if you ever take furniture into consideration when you're talking about soundproofing or like what the fabric of it is or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. If we're talking about studios, I mean, depending on the room and stuff like that, for me, in my tracking room, the kind of couch that I have, I wouldn't really ever want a couch with like really tight material or like leather because that absorbs the high frequencies a lot. So like more breathable material is better for that kind of thing, because then it's almost like you have a huge sound panel, but it is a couch. But in a vocal room, I mean, I've never really had furniture in a vocal room. So, but yeah, that is something to take into consideration for sure.
Okay. So we're headed towards a break. When we come back from the break, we're going to be talking about signal chain, how that works and flows, and working with a vocalist. Do you want to just comment on what's coming up?
Yeah, sure. There are a lot of different types of vocalists, obviously, and some are good, some are not so good. And you got to know how to treat everybody. They are all humans, not instruments.
Most of them.
Yeah.
Some of the comments that we have coming in from the internet, D. Rapti said, "What a freaking nerd this guy is," in a good way. So I think people are really digging some of the stuff that you're talking about. I think it's really practical.
There's a lot.
There's a lot there.
I love your nerdness.
And that's just the beginning of it.
I love your
Scratching
nerdness.
the surface here.
All right, well, we've covered why vocals matter, we've covered room treatment, and we've covered soundproofing in just the beginning of the day. We have so much more to get through today and a lot tomorrow as well. So awesome start to the day, and we're going to take a break, so we'll see you guys